Connor, hello.
Hello, Mae.
Yeah. Thank you so much for talking to me. I want to give like the context of why we're talking, which is basically I'm a massive fan of Half Moon Run for many years. And in series 1 of Feel Good, we used 2 Half Moon Run songs, I think, at like very crucial moments. And I was desperate to use them. I'd actually written them in like the script, just hoping hoping that would be okay. So then with season 2, I reached out to you guys and was like, do you have any new stuff or any stuff that you'd want to send me? And then, and then we started collaborating, right?
Exactly, yeah. Well, it was a few months maybe before that. I remember actually our final live show before the pandemic was in London, and you were there. We got a message from our tour manager saying, Mae Martin will be there. It'd be great if you guys could meet up after the show. And that was like, I don't know, maybe a week or two before the show. And then when the show happened, it was all hell broke loose. Like I think only 50% of the people who bought tickets showed up. Really? Because the pandemic was raging so hard. It was like anyway, so we didn't get to meet up that night, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I just looked at the Instagram message this morning that we sent some demos we sent you almost the completed EP, and then went through and started watching season 1, I remember, to try to get more of a taste for the tone of the show. Yeah. And try to figure out just how we could fit in basically for season 2.
Yeah, and I think for me, like I was really keen for the second season to have, because we have composers, Charles Watson and Rob Jones, but then we also use commercial tracks. But I was really keen for the commercial tracks to feel more cohesive, and for it, I really liked the idea of having sort of Devin's voice be like a big part of the show, kind of. And I think it worked really nicely. And then I thought we could either like just make the show and then. But you guys know your own songs so intimately, obviously, that it was so cool to be able to send you episodes and be like, yeah, what do you think could work here, or what arrangement would work best, rather than like attempting to chop into someone else's art.
Yeah, that was amazing. So much fun too, getting rough cuts from you of each episode one by one, and then putting up a big monitor screen in our studio, and just it's so much fun to play with that, to have that that kind of canvas to play with that. Because it's so amazing. I'm sure you find this too. Just the way subtle changes in music totally change the flavor of what you're looking at. It's really, it's crazy. We were experimenting with that. The first thing that you sent us was obviously episode 1. And you were asking, there's a moment, I think the camera kind of pans up over the top of the car as Mae is walking to the rehab facility, and then it says "Feel Good," and it's the first time that and there was music there. I forget, you had something else there. I forget what it was. Yeah. But we were experimenting with different things, just kind of for fun. What could go in that spot, and that's where we were really trying to figure out the tone of the show, which is really specific, because so much about Feel Good seems to me that it explores things that are often dark. Always with this kind of underlying humor. There's an underlying lightness to it, and there's not that much humor in Half Moon Run's music. It's heavy, So right. A lot of our stuff, if you put it over put it over certain segments of Feel Good, it feels kind of like, oh no, the vibe was like he's going to rehab and it's gonna be bad.
It's gonna be dark. Yeah, get ready. Here we go. Yeah. But for me, tonally, it did feel like a really good fit, because, and I always am wary of like interpreting I don't know, I might be like, and your tone is this, and you're like, nah. But
well, like, I just went ahead and did it to you, so go ahead.
No, but there's like we talked a lot when we were talking about the tone of Feel Good about ambiguity and that type of thing, and I feel like even some of your heavier songs, or for instance, they'll be the lyrics will be sort of quite light and romantic, but then you'll undercut it with some sort of slightly Lennon-esque cynicism and that's sort of what we tried to do, so you never quite know where you stand, and it leaves it more open to interpretation, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. I was just thinking about this morning, how, I mean, yeah, it'll sound maybe pretentious to describe it in these terms, but part of our goal, I suppose, in a way, was to take dark feelings and to try to make them sound beautiful. I like the ambiguity of darkness and beauty, or like you said, the ambiguity of maybe something romantic and with something that is very spooky, you know, exactly like you said. And it's in a way, it's kind of a coping mechanism. It's, you can cope with darkness if you make it beautiful. And in the same way on your show, I think that's, you can cope with darkness if you make it funny, you know?
Yeah. It's like, it's the ultimate deflection, and yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking today that, like, because I started listening to your stuff years ago, and then with each new album that comes out, I'm like, this is uncannily kind of in keeping with where I'm at in my own, like lyrically and musically, my own personal growth. But then I'm like, oh, I guess that's just good music, where everyone feels that way when they listen to it. Everyone's like, oh, this is what I'm thinking right now. Yeah, because it really felt like, in season 1, for instance, like we used Drug You and Unofferable, and they were so perfect for that season, because Drug You, there's a sort of element of like sort of obsessive sexual obsession kind of, and toxicity. I thought, yeah. In this new season, I was thinking, because you used How Come My Body so nicely, when you and George are under the bed there at the end of, I think, episode 2, I think. And you mentioned in an email before I had seen that episode that there was a lot of parallels, and I thought at first it was because, you know, your face gets all bruised up in the song. It says it's just like a bruise, but it's also that great line that you have when I think you and George are discussing how the extent to which your relationship might be toxic, you know, and then you said, but it felt good sometimes. It felt like pushing on a bruise, and that was even more along the lines of the song, and it gets. Later on in the season, it got into ideas about how things I loved, saying your teenage years felt so foggy, you know, and there's that adolescent moment where things feel foggy. I remember when you were doing that scene, your acting was great in that scene. Thanks, man. Thank you.
But How Come My Body was actually initially written at one of those kind of moments. It was like the first part of it was written 10 years ago, I think, when I was 19 or 20, and had just moved to Montreal, and was really feeling that it's like a metamorphosis between adolescence and adulthood that can feel very uncomfortable. And I had some roommates that were going through similar things, and so while we were writing that song back then, you know, the drums kind of have this tuck 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 thing that we do. It's kind of meant to be, I think, kind of like a knock at the door, like, you know, something like something's happening, someone's coming in, you know, like it's that feeling of looming change. And so as you in this season 2 here, where your character was rehashing things from that period of transition and adolescence, and that's kind of what the song is about, because, you know, we didn't revisit it until 10 years later, and I felt like when we were recording it that I was revisiting that too. So there was some synchronicity behind all those things, and I was so happy that you liked it, and I'm so happy with the placement, and it's just great. That was such a cool,
because you sent this album, I think, unmastered. It was like an early, and as soon as I heard that song, I knew exactly, it's so perfect for that moment. And also the final song in the series, Then Again, I thought it just works perfectly, because it's, we never wanted and that was like a really tricky decision, the final kind of tonal taste in your mouth that you want to leave for people who've watched both series. But I really liked that switch into the more minor chorus there at the end. So you're like, oh, everything's great. Oh wait, maybe it won't be. Yeah,
that's for sure. Yeah, you get the feeling like exactly. I just exactly what you just said.
Yeah,
you're so happy to see them together, and then it's like, you know, it's lifting off, and then you think, oh yeah, there's a little tiny thread of darkness that just kind of weaves its way through at the end.
Yeah, definitely.
I was wondering about that final episode, because it seems to me I won't give any spoilers, but you're gearing up for that final confrontation with another character there. The complication that has kind of been sticking with you since adolescence, and when you seemed like your acting really went to another level during those big scenes, you know. And I was wondering how you felt when you were performing that. Did you feel like you were, you know, really in the zone, and, you know, like, how did it feel?
Yeah, like I've only ever played myself, and I've only and stuff that I've written that has an autobiographical element. So it definitely felt like a kind of masochistic emotional recall. Some of those things where it came pretty naturally because of the content and the dialogue and stuff. So yeah, I definitely had had a full panic and that.
Oh yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah.
oh, for sure. But I'm really glad it turned out well.
Mm-hmm.
And
everyone's receiving it so well too. I'm so happy to see all the reviews are so great, and it's like you must be so happy. You must be so happy.
I'm pumped, but I'm in the kind of I've been promoting it for about a month, and it is definitely weird talking about like, it's so nice talking about this because we have like a framework of the music, but talking about these dark themes and personal things. I always want to remind people it's a comedy, and like, yeah. How do you find when you're promoting an album and you've spent all this time making something that's layered and nuanced, and then you're asked to condense it in an interview, like, oh, what's the album about? Like, do you find that difficult? You're like, well, loads of things, just listen to it.
Yeah, I find it really difficult. It's easier when you're talking to somebody who has passion and a lot of love for music in general. Like sometimes the extent to which they're actually just interested in music and in the music, you can always pull something out and, I don't know, talk about it from a different angle.
Yeah.
I find, I don't know how you feel, but I find that I'm most excited about and open to talking about the music that we're making while we're writing it. Because then when you're recording it, it's a different phase, and then you release it, and then you just really want to move on to the next thing. That's how I feel right now. We're about to release an EP, and I'm thinking about what we're going to release next.
Definitely.
We haven't even released it yet.
So, but this year has been COVID and not being able to tour and having this year of like reflection has kind of coincided with you guys becoming a trio again. So you must have had to kind of rethink where you're going to go next. Is that right? Or am I projecting?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Definitely. I think, that frankly, that's, I think, part of the reason why we are a trio again. And things are going great with Isaac. I just actually saw him last night, but when COVID hit, everyone just had to take a deep look at the project and just really decide, like, this is the moment where if we're going to make a change, it's kind of the world is telling you now is the time to make a change.
Definitely.
And so Isaac decided that it was time for him to make a change. And so this situation had kind of happened to us 10 years ago when we first were meeting up as a three-piece, because I wanted to leave for the summer to go forest firefighting, actually, because I was running out of money, and I was still trying to go to McGill. And Devin told me, like, if you leave for the summer, I don't think that the band is going to be able to make it through. Like, if you leave for 3 months, it's going to break up. And so we were like, okay, no, let's really do this. And it was like this moment when we were like, okay, no, we're going to stop. We're going to drop everything. We're going to go into debt. And we're going to do this if that's what it takes. And so now, again, 10 years later, we kind of, it wasn't exactly the same, but we just looked at each other again. We're like, are we going to keep going? Yeah, I think we are. We're going to do at least another record or two. So it was like a big time turning point for us.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you made that decision. And also that it seemed like you were really prolific in lockdown because you put out Seasons of Change, which is, how would you describe it? It's like a more acoustic kind of, I don't know, there's a real immediacy about it because it came out like how many months into lockdown, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah, that was actually, all those songs were recorded during the Blemish in the Great Light sessions, the third LP. We recorded 18 songs, and then we only released like 11 or 12 on the LP. And we were planning on releasing this smaller album later on, but when COVID hit, we just felt like all of a sudden it feels like the time to just release this. And so that stuff is actually already ready. So it's just, it's deceptive. We seem to be more prolific than
okay. All right. But actually you're just like digging through the archive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, then we did some live, like, it's amazing how much you can get done when you don't have to go on tour. That's historically taken up so much of our time.
That's how I felt with season 2 of Feel Good, because usually I'm doing stand-up at night and doing various other things. I have a really hard time saying no to anything. So we just had to write the scripts, me and my writing partner, and we only had, I think we had like a third of the amount of time to do it that we had for season 1. So it was a lot more intense, and we knew a bit more what we were doing. But yeah, I think it's definitely reflected in the, I don't know. Yeah, I think like thematically there's a link between what was going on globally and the second series. But yeah, it would. People were like, are you going to set it in a pandemic? I just think that would have been so bleak to watch, and nobody really wants to see it.
No. I actually heard in another interview that you did that one of the themes of the second season was that in the first season, Mae's character seemed really like she was the romantic one. And then in the second season, it was more that it appears that she was actually maybe taking what she wanted from that relationship, and it was a little bit less romantic. I found that fascinating. And then also I don't know. I guess maybe this is more of something we would talk about in private, just about how, where those things come from, and exactly what do you feel more romantic or more, is it more of a struggle that you feel like you take advantage of people in relationships? I could really relate. I could really relate to that. I think a lot of people can. It's really relatable to feel like, am I really loving this person for them or for me?
Yeah, definitely. I think all through my 20s, I considered myself a really romantic person, and I still do think that I am. But being romantic, it can be really selfish as well. And yeah. I think we liked unpacking in season 2 some of those rom-com tropes of those, like a big romantic gesture, if it's not been asked for, that can be like totally self-serving. And I think in season 1, both of those characters were coming at the relationship from a place of like filling a deep void rather than being like parallel travelers. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. Interesting. Yeah.
We when we were filming, we were in isolation together, me and Charlotte, my co-star, and who plays George, and we had our instruments, and I had my guitar and she had her piano, and we played Need It, and we played and we played Unofferable. We have recordings somewhere, but I'm too shy to ever send them. But
oh, come on, you have to. That's cool.
I even got a harmonica to play in for Unofferable, but I'm not good. It's like I can do one sustained note.
That's all it takes. As soon as you got that, that's the hardest part, to get just a single note. After that, it's just all blowing and sucking. Charlotte is an excellent singer.
She's an excellent singer. Yeah,
and a terrific actress too. It seems like she could do anything. I was really so impressed watching her through both seasons.
She could really do anything. Yeah. But it made me think, I wonder if, like we emailed a bit about how comedians want to be musicians and musicians are interested in stuff that happens on screen and stuff. And I think what was so refreshing for us at the end of a day of like trying to make a comedy was being really earnest at the end of the day. It felt so refreshing, like not having to mask an emotion with irony, and just to be able to be like, I'm just going to sing in my best voice and really feel that, like that. I think that's really cathartic. But do you ever crave levity?
Oh yeah. Oh, good question. You definitely do crave levity, and something about what is it like? I'm trying to identify exactly what it is that musicians are kind of envious about what happens on screen. It's something about being able to invent and inhabit a world that isn't real, and then breathe truth through that. Because music, you're kind of meant to, some people do kind of live through a character. Like David Bowie was so good at that, and Tom Waits kind of does that. Like a lot of great artists do that, but at the same time, it's a little bit more abstract music, and so you're expressing yourself just in this abstract way that it just happens the way it does. To be able to set up a framework and kind of play house with your friends, that's what all musicians want to do that for some reason.
And also to not have to rhyme. I've heard some musicians talk about wanting to do stand up or write books or things like that, because it can just be an unfiltered kind of like, this is what I want to say quite plainly, not masking it with when you and Charlotte were singing together, do you sing in harmony? Yeah, big time. That's the juiciest stuff. But I'm not a very good singer, and she would be like, she's just an amazing singer, and we'd be singing and she'd be like, you need to like open your voice more, like open your throat, and you're holding back. And in my head I'm like, I'm not holding back, this is my best that I'm doing. This is like it is the best. Harmonizing is the best. That's still something that when we do it together as a band, it's just like it never gets old. I just love it every single time we do it. Yeah, that was the magic moment when we first met. I was like 19. I was so young, and we met and we were all kind of just looking at each other. I've been to a lot of jams up to that point where
the point seems to be that people show each other how good they are, you know, and then they say, look at this. But with Half Moon Run's first jam, it was like the opposite. Everyone was kind of looking around, listening to each other to see like who's got what. So then in that kind of stillness, if you can imagine like a young Devin stepping up to the microphone for the first time, he's got this gorgeous voice, you know. He's such an amazing singer, Dev.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing. And then so the rest of us just carefully listening, that was the first thing we did, was just fit our voices in around his. And then when it kind of started locking together, I remember like just, it was a moment just like shortly after that I was like, if I have to drop out of school, whatever I have to do, I'm following this project because this just feels so good.
Wow.
So harmonizing, it's the best.
It's the best. And that's what, those harmonies are what always give me like, or also when drums come in later than expected in a song, that always gives me goosebumps. I'm like, oh, Elliott Smith. Yeah. I got my Elliott Smith album because and he's the king of that. But do you, so now that you're thinking about playing this album live, are you anticipating, it must be so juicy doing those moments live? Like you must be, when you hit like the perfect. You
discover sometimes, like it's probably like showing maybe your TV show or something to, if you show it to an audience, you're often surprised. Something that you thought that was funny, they don't laugh. Something that you thought wasn't funny, they will laugh. You know, and it's the same when you play a live show. That's something that you thought was going to be a banger moment, just goes over deadpan, and then some other thing everybody starts going crazy for. So then you know you adapt and build around that. There's some things that you know are gonna go over, but no, there's I can hardly even imagine what it's gonna be like getting back on stage. It's been so long, and just like it's hard to even think you're really gonna go up in front of like a couple thousand people, and you're gonna be standing there alone with your instrument, and you know the stage is gonna be shaking with the bass, and everyone's gonna be looking back at you. It's like it's crazy. It feels crazy to me now that we ever did that, and I can't believe it's gonna happen again. You know?
So do you miss it, or have you kind of enjoyed having the space?
I've really enjoyed after so many years of touring, it started to feel like, well, whatever skill set I had when I was 19, I'm still kind of just forging ahead with it because I just don't have the time to dig in. So over the past year, we've all been really practicing. I've been practicing so much piano, and I feel like I've gotten a lot more skills, and so that's been amazing. And you know, reading a lot to get better at writing lyrics, and
I think that's so important. And so often when you get in the kind of, there's a snowball effect, and you get in this hamster wheel, and you're just going and going, and then but you have to also live the life, so you have something to write about. And I have friends who are I was asked recently about advice for screenwriting and stuff, and the person was saying, I've read this book about screenwriting and this book, and I was like, you should also read just some other books, because like with narratives and things, because that's the stuff that you'll absorb as well, and you know, will inform what you're doing.
I wonder, because same question for you about live, like, but you're starting to dabble with a little of some shows here and there, right?
Yeah, I was really expecting, I've done a few, and I was like, the audience is going to be euphoric, they're going to be just laughing at everything, but people look a little haunted. They're kind of slightly relearning how to be an audience, and I'm relearning how to, and also they were in masks, and that's very
that's tough. I don't know. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
With laughing, it's really tough, like just a muffled kind of, you know. But it's been fun. And then I'm going on tour in the autumn. I think I'll go on like a real tour.
Oh yeah. So do you ever go on stage and just improvise?
Yeah, that's my favorite thing to do is, but that's a recent thing in the last couple of years, going up with nothing and then just seeing what comes out, or I get the audience to ask questions. And that's always fun because you get a real sense of what they want from you. What about, do you guys still jam like and just improvise and stuff?
Oh yeah. These days we've been writing. When we write, it's been more, you know, Devin's been bringing like these little skeleton ideas in, and we've been writing around that. But no, we definitely still jam. We have a whole process involving a little 2-track recorder, two-track Tascam recorder that, you know, anyway, we make constant little demos on that and listen back and write on a board, and that's how we do it.
If someone's bringing a skeleton of an idea in, is that like a lyrical skeleton or chords or what?
Depends.
Or an idea?
Sometimes it's been like we've been writing a lot of new stuff just in the past few weeks, and it's been a combination of all those things. Sometimes it'll be literally he's just got one thing that he's doing on the guitar, and he's just thinking like, I just want this to kind of, what do you guys think? Like, it's just an open palette from there. And sometimes, you know, like a chorus lyric or a verse and a chorus, and then what we're really trying to discover, I think, in the first moments after that is just the sonic character, what kind of world we're going to go into. As soon as you kind of know what the world that you're stepping into is like, then you can kind of improvise within that, if you know what I mean, and look for melodic motifs. And
100%. I'm sure there's crossover there with screenwriting and stuff, and collaborating. Like my writing partner Joe Hampson, often we'll just have a really nebulous idea, but if we know the mood of what we're talking about, then you can play within that. You guys write together. That's really interesting. We just try to make each other laugh.
Yeah. That's really nice.
It's nice. I mean, do you find like wanting to impress someone else is a great motivator? Like someone you respect, especially who you have similar tastes to. If there's nothing more motivating than someone being like, "That's amazing. That's sick."
Oh yeah. In the band, we definitely still covet each other's opinions in that way. Like if my bandmates look back at me and say, "That's really good," you know, like they mean it, you know. And I trust them. That's still definitely the first filter that any of our ideas go through is still definitely each other.
Yeah, it's really important. That I think it'll be hard for me going back to stand up actually, because it's such a lonely thing, especially touring. Like it's just me. I just go on my own on the train. And I'll definitely miss. Yeah. And I've spent every day for the past 5 years pretty much with Joe working on Feel Good. So it'll be weird. Definitely.
So you don't have a tour manager or anything like that?
No. I have a tour manager who does remotely organize everything, but then I just go with my little bag. It's really bleak actually, but I'm looking forward to it. I shouldn't say that. It is fun.
That's really cool. It's such an adventure in its own way.
It is in a way. I can play into like that fantasy, you know, the Jack Kerouac, Bob Dylan fantasy that I'm living day to day.
Yeah, you should just go on train, you know, running beside the train and hopping on and do it that way next time.
I think I'm also gonna bring all my stuff in like a little handkerchief on a stick.
Yeah. You can chew a long piece of straw as you walk down the road.
One thing that I've always really been into, like singer-songwriters and like Elliott Smith or Dylan or these people and
Leif Vollebeck. You use Leif Vollebeck really well.
Yeah, I love Leif Vollebeck. But Half Moon Run's like as soon as I heard you guys, I got so into you, and it's so rare that I get like upset. I mean, I feel like teenage obsessed with you guys. I think you're so good.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so nice. I mean, that's so nice. I think you'll probably. I should send you some of the demos of the stuff we're working on right now. I think you'll really like what we're working on right now.
Yeah, that would be great. I also I have a fantasy that you're going to come to London on tour and then help me figure out. That's my lap steel. It's It was like the cheapest one I could buy, but I'm just trying every day to learn little things.
You were asking about the lap steel, and I was thinking about it. I'm because I play a bit of pedal steel. It's hard to do. The only thing that I would say is that it's one of those instruments, maybe kind of like bass, where it's hard to play by yourself. It's one of those instruments that's best to play with someone else. And then you really figure out how to play in tune and exactly how much to play, because it's just hard to play on your own. With the pedal steel, I found too, it's like I'm practicing. I'm kind of like it's an accompaniment instrument. It's not, it's not something you don't sit there and sing and play lap steel. Really,
That's true. Yeah, unless you're doing that like whacking it, getting some rhythm or something, that would be cool. But
that would be cool. Yeah.
But I feel like that's way far away from where I'm at now.
You got a couple guitars too, and you played a little bit guitar in season 2 there. So you got some skills.
Yeah. No, I plateaued when I was about 16 with guitar, but I definitely. I play a lot. I do. I really love it. Yeah. But I've run out of like sockets in my house, so I don't have space for anything else. But
it's a solvable problem. You need a power bar. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's very classic me. Well, I can't. I'll have to give up.
Have to give up the guitar. Sell it. Yeah.
Are there any instruments that you want to learn to play or?
Well, yeah. I mean, I play guitar, piano, harmonica, and a bit of steel and bass. But I'd like to learn. My grandfather was a trombone player, and he gave me his own old trombone. And I can kind of make a sound out of it. I'd like to take some lessons. These days, I've really just been focusing on the piano, though. I've been finding it's gotten to a point where like I practice a lot of classical piano every day. And,
Oh, wow.
And when I feel like learning harmonic and just learning it in every sense from the great masters of the past, I feel like then I pick up a guitar and I'm just better at the guitar.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I just learned so much from the old Bach and Chopin, Beethoven and Brahms, and that's really all I do in terms of practicing and instrumental. I have a whole studio in my basement.
Oh,
And
wow.
all I do is play the acoustic piano. It's just, for some reason,
Really?
all during the lockdown and everything, that's all I've been doing. Yeah.
So had you taken lessons when you were young, and then so you had a foundation, and then
Until I was 14 or 15, I had lessons. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, what was I going to ask you? Oh yeah, what have you been reading that's going to influence your music?
Reading. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went on a. Go ahead.
Well, you did a post being like, what's everyone's favorite book? And mine's Brothers Karamazov, which is one of yours, right?
Absolutely, I love that book. I read it in grade 12, so it's been a long time. I'm interested. What is it about that book that makes it your favorite?
I like all of the old Russian stuff because it doesn't fuck around. It's straight to the big questions. It's big moral questions. And but I mean, I think Crime and Punishment's like a page turner, like a thriller. And I just love it's just all the stuff I'm into, you know.
Yeah, me too. I was feasting on 19th century novels the whole lockdown, basically. So I read Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights and Moby Dick and like Dracula. Dracula is good.
Is it?
Dracula's really good. Yeah, it's a page turner. And what else? Like they're all up there right now.
Have you read
there's a couple others.
Have you read Jude the Obscure?
No.
That's really good. That's Thomas Hardy. I'd recommend that.
I think you mentioned that in that post too. Yeah, I kept doing book clubs with like family members and stuff, and one with my best friend. My best friend and I did a Moby Dick book club, and so we read all of Moby Dick. Have you read Moby Dick? Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's everybody always says like it's kind of a gay book, you know, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's a way to interpret it, but then it's really on the nose with some of the homosexual references that I was like, really, like, come on. There's a chapter called "Squeeze of the Hand." I remember the squeeze of the hand, and what he's doing. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but they take all like they call it the sperm out of the head of the whale, and old Ishmael there. The chapter is called "Squeeze of the Hand" because what he's doing is going through the sperm and massaging out these kind of curd-like balls, and he says it's making his skin feel all silky smooth, and he's so into it that he invites all the other sailors around to get in there with him, and they start squeezing and rolling around in the sperm all on the boat. Yeah, that's the chapter called "Squeeze of the Hand." Yeah.
I don't remember that. I really don't remember that. I need to revisit that. That's hilarious. So do you think Ishmael's sort of sexually obsessed with this whale? That's the undercurrent in a way.
I guess so. And like it seems like what I compared it to was there's definitely some sexual obsession. There's something about sailors that is just just goes in that direction. They're alone on a boat for whatever 3 years. All these guys. But I thought that it was kind of reductive in a way to like that was always my opinion. It's like saying that the statue of David is like a gay statue. It's like, well, you look at the butt and you're like, well, it's definitely something erotic about the statue, but it's like the totality of it is more vast than that. And so I was saying that to people about Moby Dick. I was saying that in my book club about Moby Dick, but then he just hits you on the head with this squeeze of the hand chapter that it's like, well, maybe it is just all.
I guess like I mean, in a way, the whale is like the perfect representation of like extreme virile masculinity. It's this massive kind of
but what I wondered was where in that analogy, like where's the feminine? Is it the ocean? It wasn't exactly clear.
Maybe it's the ocean. I'm really excited to hear the Half Moon Run song that's about squeezing the
the squeeze of the hand. I did put some like kind of in one song. We did a collaboration with someone else for a compilation album. It's a really cool song, but I was putting in like basically Moby Dick kind of lyrics, not they're sailor lyrics. It's like kind of like it sounds like a bit sea shanty kind of vibes, and I don't know. Dev is the one that has to sing it, so he's kind of like I'm kind of looking forward to when you're going to be done reading that book. So,
What other collaborations would you want to do? Do you have any lined up, or is there anyone
we've historically been kind of not that open to it for some reason. This is our reputation is as kind of difficult to work with. I think that we all have really big strong opinions, and it's been difficult for us to get outside of our bubble until recently. So we started collaborating. This producer wanted to do a collaboration, and so we worked with them, and it went really great. We all went in there on our best behavior and didn't micromanage, and it went great. So I think maybe we're going to start being more open to collaborating in the future.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what about scoring stuff? Do you think you'd find that?
Well, I would absolutely love to do more of it. And because I don't know if it's not public, but you're working on something else right now. And of course, we'd love to do anything more with you. Just to have that screen up again and to look at those images and to do more of a full-on project, a full-on score. It'd be so much fun. Like what I love is like in old spaghetti westerns and that kind of thing, you have character motifs. So a character comes on and then like their motif comes on and then it's like
the fistful of dollars
exactly
kind of thing. Yeah, that'd be amazing. We're writing a thriller right now, Joe and I, and but obviously it'll be comedic as well. But I think there'd be a lot more room for that type of thing because it's sort of by nature has I love that. A thriller is great for those kind of character motifs too. It's like because when you can play with things like if a bad guy's about to come in, you put their motif on slightly before he comes in, and then all of a sudden people, you're almost like hinting at it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Are you gonna be the lead actor in that one too?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's the idea. Nice. We'll see if anyone wants to make it. Like we're gonna write it and then see who wants to make it. But I'd love to play someone other than myself. It's so intense, constantly thinking about myself, and like it's kind of crazy to have your job so tied up with sort of self-examination, and it would be really fun to just write an insane character who
Well, for what it's worth, it really doesn't come across at all as like as self-involved or anything like that. Something about it, the tone of the show, it was really I don't know. I was really proud to be a part of it. Yeah, I'm
thanks.
Really happy with what you did. Yeah,
thanks so much.
Really, really cool.
I'm really allergic to the idea that it would ever seem like sort of navel gazing. So we tried to sort of be a bit meta about that and comment on it a bit. So I hope that like offsets the fact that it's just it one person's.
Well, I mean, you're the butt of most of the jokes too, which helps. Make it fun. You're always dressed up in some silly costume. Oh yeah, made me think it must have been so fun writing all those different role plays.
Oh yeah, the best.
When you're just brainstorming different role play options, and you got to do funny accents, like you did like a kind of like a plumber kind of Boston kind of accent.
Boston, that was really fun.
Yeah,
that was really fun. That was based on the villain of Survivor, the Australian reality show. Not Australian. Survivor. You know Survivor? Yeah. There's a character called Boston Rob in it who I'm obsessed with. So we based on that. But it was really fun to get to do something where we were dressed in costumes, and like also so many shows I feel like exist in a world where there's no other pop culture. So we really wanted Feel Good to exist in a world where we could reference pop culture, and the way I do constantly with my friends. So I liked that those role plays, often reference stuff that's out there.
Oh, I love the pop culture references. They're all just springing to mind as you say that. When you said I always wanted to be like John Wick, or you identify as Ryan Gosling or something.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Yeah. How do you feel about the fact that it's over 2 seasons? Like, would you prefer to do 3, or are you happy with 2?
No, we knew it was going to be 2, and that we wanted to. I think it would have been really sadistic to keep throwing problems at that couple. And I think if you were going to keep it going forever, you'd have to kind of undo all the personal growth they'd made. You know what I mean? And just keep. So I'm happy to leave it. I'm really sad not to be working with Charlotte or any of my pals, but it just makes me want to write something else and cast Charlotte as some weird goblin or something. And it's so fun writing for your friend and making them do ridiculous things. So
she was so game. She was like down for anything. You put her in all kinds of crazy situations.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course yourself too.
So what's next for you guys? So you're going to start writing right away, you think?
We have been writing, we've got like 10 or 12 new songs written. So we're way ahead of schedule.
That's so exciting.
It's really exciting. I'm so thrilled about the new stuff too. I'll show you. They're all just rough, those rough, like, this is actually funny. This is something that happened. You used a song called Another Woman.
Yeah.
And that's like a demo of the kind that we're making right now, where we literally just have this little tiny thing like this that just sits in the room. It's like almost like iPhone quality. And when we were going through our demos that we had to send to you, all the potential options of the different music that we could send, like the list got too long. We were including some rough ideas, and eventually we said, Dev was going to send it to you, and we were like, no, like take like 4 or 5 of those tracks out of there. Like there's no way, it's too shitty, it's way too rough. And we thought all carefully of like what order to put the songs in, so that we put what we thought was best at the top of the list, so that you would like be like, wow, that's good. But Dev forgot to do all that, and he left all the rough stuff in the folder, and then you came back the next day and said that you wanted the demo, So
oh, no way. That's so funny. But in a way, did it make you look at that demo differently and be like, oh, there's something there that's really...
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But what's the conclusion? What, are you going to release demos? No, you still have to like re-record it. We actually went back to our studio and set up all the microphones and our instruments, and we tried to record exactly that snippet that was put in the show.
Yeah.
Hi-fi, and we just couldn't get the vibe, We spent all afternoon. We're just like, fuck it. We can't seem to...
Yeah.
She liked it. Well, I guess we'll just leave it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it works perfectly, and it's sort of, it's got a weird quality to it. Like, it was perfect in that moment. Yeah. So if you're, I guess the new stuff that you're writing, you have touring in mind. So does that mean do you write thinking about how you're going to play it live?
Well, what we try to do, and I've always been an advocate for this. Don't think about touring during the writing. And don't think about touring during the recording. So you can actually feel yourself screwing yourself over, writing things that you can't pull off, using an instrument that couldn't possibly go on tour. And then especially in the studio afterward, just layering things and layering things and layering things. So it's like, I would need like 12 hands to play what's happening here. Yeah. And it's just all part of the process. Then you have to learn, like Dylan, our drummer, he's amazing at multitasking. He can do like a billion things at once.
I've seen these videos where he's like, he's literally, it's amazing.
Like we'll have all these synths, right? And we'll layer all these synths in a song, for instance. And so they were all played separately. And then when it comes time to play it live, this is what'll happen sometimes. We'll sample the synths so they go onto a computer, and then the samples will be triggered by a MIDI controller. But what Dylan will do is he'll map, tell me if this doesn't make any sense, but he'll map the notes, transpose them selectively, so that actually he's playing in like 3 different keys at once. With one hand, he's playing 3 synths, and all the notes aren't what they seem to be, because he's transposed things like, chromatically. And so his fingers are doing all these weird contortions that are not quite related, plus singing, plus drumming, it's really good. So
plus,
whenever
like, doing that. It's like trying to do, like, I couldn't do that.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
We actually, there was a shaker part that he had to play in the song Jello on My Mind, that song. Yeah. And like nobody had hands to play the shaker. It's not efficient to play a shaker because, it takes up a whole hand. Yeah. But what we actually did, like, he had a hat. And
no way.
We strapped the shakers to his hat. And so he does like this while he's playing. And
no
shakes.
Way. Yeah. It's kind of like a Beatlesy, that's kind of a Ringo. Yeah. That's
and
really
if you're dancing in time, it's kind of impossible for it to be out of time too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I loved using that song in Feel Good too. I think it has a sort of sense of humor about it, and a cheekiness.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. That's one song that does have a sense of humor.
Yeah. It's really, really great. Well, if you need an extra pair of hands when you're on tour, I'll do the shakers.
Nice. The next London show, we'll have you on board for shakers.
Yeah, man, that'd be great. All right. Well, good luck with promoting it and everything. And wait, I'm so excited. When does it come out?
June 18th.
It's so fucked that I was listening to How Come My Body for months before anyone else could. It was like such a fantasy, but I was like, I can't wait for people to hear this, because I think it's mind-blowing, that song. Yeah.
I felt the same way about the episodes. Yeah, I felt the same way. Getting those episodes, getting rough cuts. It's such a nice privilege thing. You get these little treasures that you can open and nobody else gets to see. And
thanks. And then but you saw them at very early stages, and they hopefully got finessed into the final product. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah. And I guess, are you permanently in London? Eh? Like you don't come back to Canada very often?
Well, I sometimes come to Montreal for laughs, so I'm gonna see if maybe this summer I might go for a little bit, but and then I'm usually in Toronto at Christmas. But yeah, yeah.
Well, if you're ever here, definitely reach out. And other than that, I'm sure
Ditto.
we'll see you at the next show in London. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
man.
sweet.